Yeah.
All right. I don't think I have my video on. Is that because my screen is being shared?
They're disabled, so you'd have to turn it on.
Okay. Oh yeah. Here we go. Okay. Roger. I mean, I've been doing this for 9 months. I think I would. So. Okay, how are we doing with our panel? I think it looks as though. Okay. Jessica. All right, looks good. Okay. All right, it's 6:30 then. Jamie, we ready to go?
Nope, still getting there. And once I get the link up, we got to give them a couple minutes to get in there.
Okay. You'll let me know?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, link is live. So what I do is just give people time to get in for a little bit, and then about 2-3 minutes.
Sounds good.
So it's live up and running, Brian, and we got about 32 people in there watching now. So it's up to you if you want to give people more time or.
Yeah, I'll go 1 more minute and then we'll get going about 6:34, okay?
Okay, sounds
Thank
good.
you. Okay, Jamie, we're going to start to move forward here, okay? Good evening, Girard families. Brian O'Hara, superintendent of our amazing Girard City Schools here on January 20th. And I welcome you to our town hall meeting. I again want to express on behalf of our Girard City Schools our gratitude for your patience and your perseverance over the first semester here. And it's been a challenge in many ways and growth in many ways also. So that being said, I'd like to introduce our panel for this evening. Again, we have Jamie Williams helping us out here with the Zoom setup and the YouTube access. And Jamie, for questions, it's pretty much straightforward on asking questions through the link?
Yeah, when they're watching live on YouTube, over on the right-hand side is the chat window. Just type your question in there, and then it'll be answered.
Okay, thank you. So if you put that question in there, then we have somebody monitoring the questions that we make sure that we can address those to the best of our ability. So that being said, then also we have with us tonight Jessica Krumpak, who is our special education director, helping out with the organization of those questions. And if you have anything in terms of special education, she'll be able to address those issues. Dr. Debbie Gratz, of course, our prospect principal. Mrs. Julianne Ware, our Girard Intermediate principal. Mrs. Jennifer Santangelo, our junior high principal. Mr. John Cardero, assistant Girard High School principal. Sam Caputo, our Girard head principal at the high school. Also tonight we have with us Lori Brinker, our EMIS coordinator and overseeing the organization of some of our transportation documents. And we have with us this evening Beth Drennan, who oversees our K-6 e-learning as a coordinator and has helped with the presentation and design of the PowerPoint. So that being said, let's move on to our next slide here. This is our focus for this evening in terms of what we'd like to accomplish with our dialogue and being as transparent as possible as to what we have to offer here, starting with the first 3 weeks of the second semester, starting the week of January 25th. Again, our focus this evening is to focus on the weeks of January 25th through February 11th for our quarter 3. I will share out late the week of February 1st, our intentions for our schooling plan after the February 12th date. But up until the 11th, again, we have Group A and Group B, as we are now working under over the last couple of weeks with the 1 day a week hybrid and how the groups are designed. So Group A will be in person on Monday and Wednesday, remote Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Group B, in person on Tuesday and Thursday, remote Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And each of our building principals will go over the expectations for their buildings when students are in both of these learning modes as in person and remote. Just a calendar here of a graphic organizer and what it would look like with Group A and Group B. Please take note that we are off a school calendar day on Friday, February 12th, with our parent-teacher conferences on the 11th from midday to evening. Again, a graphic organizer here on the in-person learning days, excuse me, as we start the week of the 25th here and through the 11th of February. Take note, we are also off on Monday, February 15th as a school calendar day. Again, our schedule for the in-person learning days are on a modified early release schedule, the same schedule that we have been operating under over the last few weeks when Groups A and Group B are in. Again, I want to emphasize the reason for the early release, of course, to maintain the Google Classroom that we have put so much time and professional learning into for the in-person and the remote learners, keeping in mind that we will also have to provide resources when students are quarantined and when students are absent, so that the Google Classroom sustains its foundation as our curriculum. During that time, though, the early release office hours will be available on certain days. Principals will go over that. You know, many of our teachers at the secondary level are maintaining 3 learning platforms with the in-person, the remote Google Classroom, and also supporting academically the Edgenuity courses. That being said, though, across the board K-12, again, the Google Classroom will be designed to maintain daily. This also allows us to maintain over the next couple of weeks the limited exposure for students, especially during the lunchtime and cafeteria, and the reduction of distractions throughout the day. And it also allows us to initiate our cleaning and disinfecting protocols earlier in the day for those common areas that are shared. Okay, in terms of transportation, Lori Brinker, were you going to go over this slide?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We just want to remind our parents to make sure that the students have a mask with them when they get on the bus. They'll sanitize their hands before they go to their seats. The bus stops and times are posted on the website and also at each entrance of the buildings. If you need an alternate bus form filled out, you need to get that from your building, K through 6, and make the arrangements before you put the child on a different bus. We want to remind parents too that it's important to be at the bus stop a few minutes early to make sure that you're there before the bus gets to the stop. It's difficult when the buses have to wait for the children to run from the houses. I think that's about it. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. My number's here on the slide. You're muted.
Again, I want to say thanks for your support behind our transportation here and keeping us organized with the various documents that are needed. Again, those bus stops are posted at the buildings and on our website. Thank you. Okay, moving along with the health and safety protocols in the building, kind of a general approach here. Mrs. Julianne Ware.
Hi, everyone. So just how we have been operating for the last 9 weeks, we're working on making sure that our students are as safe as possible when they're inside the building. So temperatures are scanned upon entry. Students, they walk in, there's a handheld scanners that are at every door, and there's also stand-alone scanners taking temperatures. Any temperature that's over 100, the students will automatically get sent to the nurse and being sent home. We also have sanitizing stations set up throughout the entire school and within the classrooms. Masks are to be worn at all times. So students, when they're entering the building, need to have their masks on. The only time they're removing their masks is when they are having their breakfast or having their snack, and they are behind their shields the entire time in their classrooms. Outside visitors are not allowed in the building at this time to try to decrease the exposure inside of our buildings.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ware. And I do realize that we have covered this information before in some of our town hall meetings. However, we do have students leaving platforms from the e-learning and Edgenuity and coming back to in-person. So we just kind of want to remind all of our families of the expectations for the buildings.
Correct. So in addition to the building is having our students bringing in water bottles because the water fountains are not available. So please make sure that we're bringing in clear water bottles. K3, we understand that some of you have some different water bottles, but please try to have some that are actually clear and you can see through them. Lockers are unavailable for all of our students. They are able to carry their backpacks from room to room. 6 feet distancing is in place in the hallways and the classroom still at this time under the hybrid model. That's why one of the reasons why the hybrid model is so important is ensuring that we can continue to keep that 6 feet distance. The high touch areas are sanitized throughout the day. One of the things too, I know that we have a lot of students who are switching platforms, as Mr. O'Hara said. So we have students who are going from e-learning and coming into the schools, and we have some students who are moving from the schools and going to e-learning. If you're staying on your platform, we are talking about all different platforms tonight. So we are going to hit upon e-learning, and we'll talk about students in the transitioning and what this really looks like for this quarter and for this semester. So if you have been on e-learning, we are going to talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Okay, thanks again, Mrs. Ware. Mrs. Drennan, any questions at this time that can be addressed that have been posted?
Mrs. Ware just answered it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Head of the game. Okay, moving along again, a little bit about the classrooms here. And is that Mrs. Santangelo?
Yes, hi everyone. Especially as Mrs. Ware mentioned, some students are going to be entering our building for the first time. I wanted to take a moment to describe what you see here on this slide. Some of the images here depict our shields, both that are created and fitted to our student desks, and also some sit on the floor. But you can see that those barriers are in place in all of our classrooms, and that's what they look like. In addition to those barriers, we have markings on our floors and on our walls that help direct our traffic to and from classes and common areas. In addition to that, we have 9 to 11 students on average per room. That's K through 12. And our desks are remaining at 6 feet apart at this time to maximize our social distancing as recommended by the CDC. So for those students who have been in our buildings in the last couple of weeks, they have seen all of these, and those who are coming in soon will see all of these things.
Okay, Mrs. Santangelo, thank you. And then again, I want to express the work of Mr. Cardero and Mr. Haiti and all the support teams on, we've redesigned so many different shields over the last few weeks to increase, the kind of boundary there for exposure. So that is much appreciated, and we continue to modify these and increase the number of shields in the classroom. Okay, moving along. I think Mr. Caputo, are you with us?
Good evening, everyone. Just to very briefly talk about our screening protocol. And again, this is an ordinance. We've tried to maintain and keep up to date as much as possible with the Trumbull County Board of Health to make sure that we're following all proper protocols, and kind of as things evolve and change, to make sure that we're changing with it. As far as our screening protocol, we're urging you to stay home if you have one of the following symptoms on the left. Probably the two to highlight, as you see them there, is the fever of 100 degrees or higher. As Mrs. Ware talked about, we're taking temperatures upon arrival. So anybody with a fever of 100 or higher is gonna trigger that also. So if your student is if you're suspecting a fever, we can be proactive and keep a child home for that reason. And the other one would be loss of taste or smell. Anybody who's familiar with COVID, who's had it themselves or had a loved one have it, that kind of loss of taste and smell is very unique to to this illness, and is usually one of the key factors there. So again, if you see one of the following symptoms on the left, we're urging you to stay home, or two of the following on the right, with a headache, nausea, vomiting, congestion, sore throat, or muscle weakness.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Caputo. So is this you also, I think? Yes.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah. So when to contact the building? Again, please contact the building if your child will be absent or unable to log in to complete assignments. This would be in person or into a live Zoom, or if they're for extended period of time on Edgenuity unable to log in to complete because of one of the following things that you see there: an illness, a family emergency, or the death of a family member, some type of technology or internet outage. Usually if it's something within the city, we're aware of it, but just to be safe, that would be a situation where you want to contact the school. If you're going on vacation or you yourself are part of quarantine, anytime logging on will be an issue. It's important to contact the main office at each of you, at your child's building. It's also extremely important that if your child is in contact with COVID because of a family member's positive diagnosis, that it's also communicated to the school as well.
Okay, thank you. Moving along here, I wanted to kind of review the quarantine and isolation guidelines for our Girard City school system, and trying to keep up to date on the ever-changing kind of landscape at times. But so down the left side there, if students or staff were in the classroom or on the bus, and there was an exposure in the classroom or on the bus, and the proper health measures were in place, meaning in the classroom that we had the shields, the masks were worn properly up over the nose and below the chin, etc. Hands were sanitized, etc. There would be 0 days of quarantine for any other students in that classroom or staff members if there were a positive case. And then, of course, the positive case itself would be out for 10 days. All right. Moving down on the left column there now, if students or staff are out of the classroom, say that this may happen in a lunchroom at one time, that we can get back to the lunchroom or outside of the school building. It would be 10 days to any exposure, meaning that they were less than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes within a certain population of people. And then, of course, the positive test is 10 days. Now, CDC is a little bit different with their 7-day and possibly a negative test. However, our Trumbull County Combined Health Department has stayed with the 10 days protocol, which we function under. And then moving on to students and staff that are involved in athletics and activities. If there is an exposure on the team, basically the team is quarantined for 14 days. The positive case related to the player or players would be isolated from the classroom for 10 days, could return on day 11. However, an additional 4 days away from the program or the activity. And that is kind of where we're at today with these guidelines. So at this time, Mrs. Drennan, any additional questions?
There's just one for Dr. Gratz, but we'll address it when we get down to her building.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to student meals. Dr. Gratz?
Yes, good evening. This slide here is highlighting student meals. This is for in-person days. So if your child is in person on Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, every student will be provided a breakfast. Every student will also be provided a bagged lunch at dismissal to take home with them. Weekly meal pickup is as stated. There's going to be 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches, and a gallon of white milk. It's free to every Girard City School student and siblings 18 years and younger. Children do not need to be present for the meal pickup. And Fridays is from 12 to 3. You enter the high school parking lot off of Shannon Road, and you'll see the Big G. That is the doors that the high school, the pickup for the lunches will be at that time. So again, it's on Fridays from 12 to 3 at the high school gym entrance.
Thank you, Dr. Gratz. I do want to emphasize here, though, even though students are receiving take-home lunch and they receive a breakfast to consume while on the premises, they are all still eligible to pick up 7 breakfasts and 7 lunches on Friday here. And that starts at noon, and we continue with that pickup until supplies last on Friday. And again, I want to extend my thanks to the food service department and all of the supportive staff that have been helping out with the food over the past 10 months with this service. Thank you. Okay, technology devices, Mrs. Santangelo.
Hi again. Just want to remind everyone that students in grades 3 through 12 are expected to bring their charged school device each day. Our kindergarten through 2nd graders will not need to bring devices with them to school, and students may bring their charged personal devices and will connect to our guest network. Just note that unfortunately we will not be able to make any repairs to devices that are not property of our school district. One more, next slide. There you go. If you find yourself in need of some tech support or service, there is a form to complete on our website, and Mr. O'Hara, I believe, is going to show us where to go in just a moment. But you would be able to complete the form by inputting some basic information that can be found on your student's computer, and then the tech department will reach out to you to schedule a time for you to drop off your device and potentially pick up a loaner device. That will take place at the building where your student attends.
Okay, yes, of course, this PowerPoint will be posted after the town hall meeting this evening on our website, and the slides will be available, and then the link would be live here also. However, if you go to our Girard City School website and we go under the directory here to the right under students, under distance learning, you'll see the link over here to the left, Chromebook service request form, and also under e-learning, Chromebook service and loaner request, but all the same form there. So just to let you know, that can be accessed, and that needs to be completed prior to bringing the device in, okay, or the need to get a loaner. So thank you. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to go back here. I apologize. I do want to emphasize also that, you know, we are a one-to-one now in terms of our school district. And I know some of our families have been using their personal devices. So our goal is that by the end of the third 9 weeks here, that those families who have been using their own devices will be receiving a school device for their one-on-one learning for the remainder of the school year. So we'll keep you updated as to when that process comes together. Okay, moving along, Mr. Cardero, athletics.
Good evening, everyone. Just a couple reminders. We did touch on this at our last town hall meeting, especially now with kids going to be in the buildings more days. Students must leave at dismissal and then return for their practice times or the games. We really don't want kids to hang around. That way it allows our custodial staff and others to disinfect and clean areas that we need to get to. The other part that we did that we're changing now is eligibility. We did allow eligibility for all kids in the second 9 weeks. Starting this third 9 weeks, the eligibility will be that you have to pass 5 full credits regardless of the platform. So if you're on Edgenuity, if you are a regular student in Google Classroom or being in the building, you will have to pass those 5 credits.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cardero, for organizing this message here for eligibility in our athletics. And I do want to stress to please keep up to date on our schedules with our athletics, because there are a good number of teams in our area, even over the last few days, that have had to shut down because of quarantine and isolation, etc. So games may be canceled or postponed. Okay, building procedures. Each principal here will go through their building as we move forward. However, on our website, again, under schools, many of the resources that they will be sharing this evening are available under those directories for each of the buildings. And I know that they will be sharing additional resources over the next few days through either our voice message or text message, etc. Okay, so in terms of attendance, Mrs. Ware?
Yes, so this is really regarding attendance across the entire district, so K-12. So still operating under the the attendance that we released towards the beginning of this school year and really looking at what are the options that students have in order to be able to receive attendance. However, things are, we're growing, we're adding, and we're moving in the direction of trying to move more towards a synchronous learning opportunity. So having more in-person classes, having more live Zooms, etc. So there are still those same opportunities for students to be able to have their attendance, but we are asking that students are completing their schoolwork daily through their Google Classrooms, through their Zooms meetings, and their in-person classes. So before, it was the students had the opportunity to kind of work very asynchronously, and they had throughout the entire week. We're asking students now to move more towards the synchronous and looking at ensuring that they're doing all of those components on a daily basis. So they are receiving their attendance in those manners. And then obviously going back with what Mr. Caputo had said about what are times going to be that you would call off and report your student absent. So even if it's one of their remote days and they're learning from home, that if there's a reason they can't be on a live Zoom, or if there's a reason that they're not going to be able to complete their coursework on that day, that a phone call needs to happen to the school so that way we're reporting the student absent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ware. And again, thanks to all those who are involved from our building level of administrative assistants and principals, Lori Brinker, et cetera, to get a handle on this attendance over the school year during the various hybrid models and the diligence of trying to keep track of all students and reaching out when some start to fall through the cracks or lose traction. So we have tried to the best of our ability to go the extra mile for this attendance and keeping accountability for our students. Okay, that being said, we're going to move on to Prospect Elementary and Dr. Gratz.
Yes, our arrival procedure for Prospect Elementary is the building does open at 8:30. Our tardy bell rings at 8:50. I want to thank all of our parents for your cooperation in our new card rider arrival that we have this year. It has gone very well. I ask you to use the Prospect Street entrance. I ask you to stop at the main door so your child can exit. And I will tell you that we have personnel in the building, and I will assure you that they are very well taken care of once they enter the building to get to their right room. And then I ask you to use the Forsyth Street exit. If you could please make sure that your child is sitting on the right-hand side of the car so they can just exit the door when you come to the main door, that really expedites the line. Bus riders, the routes are posted on the building windows if you do need that information, or as Mr. O'Hara said, on the website. Dismissals at 1:30. Lunches will be placed in the students' backpacks as they are leaving. Again, I ask the card riders to use the Prospect Street entrance. Have your laminate card in the right windshield. Those new families coming from e-learners to hybrid learners, they were in the mail and you should receive those with either today or tomorrow. If you do not receive one by Friday, please call the school. Your student will exit through the cafeteria doors. And again, you will exit through the Forsyth Street entrance. Exit. Our in-person day expectations. Classes will be taught on a 5-day consecutive cycle. Again, our cohort A is in person Mondays and Wednesdays. Our cohort B is in person on Tuesday and Thursdays.
Again, I want to emphasize here that the Google Classroom is the foundation of the curriculum for the 5-day cycle, correct?
Yes, that is correct. As you're going to see on this slide here, it's taught on a 5-day cycle. So when group A is in session on their remote days, is Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, you will have Google Classroom activities and the direct instruction videos in the classrooms on that day. So we do ask every day for your child to either on in-person day interact with the curriculum, or on the days that they are not in person, they are remote, to interact through Google Classroom. Same thing with cohort B. They are remote on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. There will be no synchronous Zooms Monday through Thursday, as we have done in the past 3 weeks. And on Friday, it is considered remote Friday, but Zooms may be requested by the teacher for either individuals or for small groups or for assessment reasons. So a communication of that practice will be posted in the Google Classroom, or you will be emailed by the teacher or by the Remind app, if that is something that will pertain to your child.
Okay, I do want to emphasize here again that, the next couple of weeks of the in-person learning and the decision to maintain a small teacher to student ratio to focus on students in terms of instruction and interventions, et cetera, and trying to limit the distractions in the classroom, especially at the K-3 level of maintaining a synchronous platform and an in-person platform, just did not seem to be beneficial for that group of students.
Expectation for our e-learner population. There are some of our students that are moving from hybrid to e-learning. Families are encouraged to develop a daily routine in your house that fits a schedule so your child knows to interact with the platform of either MindPlay or Ascend Math daily. Our students are expected to complete their assignments. Students are expected to complete weekly time on task, and you'll be given that information through your email. Students' attendance is tied directly to completion of time on task. You're required to check daily your email because there are often communications that come through the email from either Mrs. Weaver or Mrs. Henderson or Mrs. Drennan. Families can contact the school and request to speak to the e-learning supervisor or teacher. Again, that personnel is Mrs. Drennan or Mrs. Weaver or Mrs. Conway, and call the school to report any technology difficulties. Students will receive an email Monday, January 25th. Since we're starting the second semester, those going over to e-learning, everyone will receive an email on Monday, January 25th that will include a slide presentation dealing with all the new programs and requirements for the second semester. The time on task requirements have changed for semester 2, so please make sure that you watch the slide presentation so you can see that change. There are some new components that we're adding to semester 2. Kindergarten and first grade, we're going to offer the Haggerty videos and also Prodigy Math. In second grade, we will be working with Study Ireland. Third grade will also have Study Ireland, and Am I Right? We've already started that, but that's something that will definitely continue. And on Friday, this is going to be something new. We're going to have Zoom class. And the personnel, Mrs. Weaver and Mrs. Conway, will be setting up these Zoom classes, and we'll be doing some fun activities with the students. So these are all new features for our second semester.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gratz there. And I want to extend my thanks to Mrs. Drennan and I know Mr. Sandy for the K-6 platform here and the progression and the growth of the opportunity here and how far we've come over the first semester as to when we first got out of the gates. So it's recognized and it is appreciated. Okay. Prospect Elementary transitioning of students, Dr. Gratz. You're muted, Dr. Gratz.
I am sorry.
I've been there.
For our e-learners that are moving over to hybrid, a letter was sent, I believe, on Friday or Thursday of last week. You should have received that letter that informs you of the classroom your child has been placed in and details for the transition and building protocols. Again, as was already mentioned, you can go to Girard City website and click on buildings, click on elementary, and in the left-hand bottom corner, you will see a video about returning to school. So you may want to watch that with your child so they can see the protocols that were mentioned earlier by Mrs. Ware. A supply list was also included in the mailing that you should have received or will be receiving hopefully tomorrow if you haven't received it yet. Please watch the building protocol video, as I said, and teachers have been asked to personally contact each of the families in their class. So you should receive either email or a phone call or remind from your new teacher for your child. If you have not received that as of tomorrow, please call the school and let me know that. But they've all been asked to do so, and they were all excited to follow through with that. Our hybrid, moving on to e-learning, students will receive an email on Monday, January 25th, and it's going to include the following. It's going to include all your login information. It's going to have a very detailed slide presentation with all the programs and requirements. And that is, again, thank you to Mrs. Drennan for putting that together. And there's going to be a Zoom link for Monday to answer any questions. Mrs. Weaver and Mrs. Conway and Mrs. Drennan will be available to answer any questions that you have concerning the new platform for your child.
Then again, Dr. Gratz, this is available on the website.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we want to encourage you to go to the main page and then to the schools and then Prospect Elementary and watch the building procedure video, correct?
Correct.
Anything else you'd like to add about the building at this time?
Not at this time, but I do ask if there's anybody that has any questions, please do not ever hesitate to call the school and ask, and we will definitely answer your questions.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Drennan, questions at this time in the chat?
Yes, we have a few.
Okay.
Dr. Gratz, will there still be study tables offered to children, specifically kindergarten?
At this time, we're going to be moving to the ABAB program of the first 4-day, Monday through Thursday. So we are definitely considering Friday. So it hasn't been yet planned out, but that is something we're definitely considering in the near future.
I think that's the only one for Dr. Gratz. We have 2 technology ones. Do you want to address those now or do you want to wait?
Yeah, we can address them now to the best of my ability.
Okay, so the one student asked, they can bring their personal Chromebook and be connected to the internet, correct?
Correct.
And if parents choose not to send their personal devices, do we have Chromebooks available for them to use?
Administration, I'm going to answer correct, right? We do have, yeah, we have extras in the buildings.
At the classrooms.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
All right, thank you. Okay, then moving along here to the George Intermediate School and Mrs. Ware.
Hi, everyone. So I'm really excited to know that we have made it through quite a few in-person learning days, have been really successful with the arrival and dismissal, and hope to continue doing so with the new additions from moving from the e-learning to the hybrid platform. So thank you for that. Building does open at 8 o'clock. Parents are dropping off students on Forsyth. Please do not enter into the parking lot. We're trying to keep our students as safe as possible without having to worry about the cars coming in and out of the parking lot as they're crossing. The students are dismissed. They go straight to the gymnasium in the morning and they get dismissed from the gymnasium at 8:15 to their classrooms, and class begins at 8:25. So if you're dropping off your student prior to 8:25, that would be wonderful, between 8 o'clock and 8:25. The school day ends at 1 o'clock. So starting our dismissal procedure around 12:55 to 1 o'clock. So that way we can safely keep our students the 6 feet distance. So we're having a staggered dismissal for sure, instead of having all students exiting the building at the same time, trying to be able to maintain that distance. So it does take a little while to be able to get some of the students out of the building in the safest manner possible. Parents are lining up on Forsyth with no cars pulling into the parking lot again at pickup in the afternoon. All students are leaving the building with their lunches in hand. School supplies. So we have our students who are bringing a lot of their materials into the school building each day. Teachers are letting our students know which books, which materials they need to be bringing with them on a daily basis, but also having pencil cases, just, our immediate pieces that they would need inside of the classroom. So pens, pencils, highlighters, scissors, headphones are also really beneficial if they're needing to do something more individualized in the classroom. We do have some headphones on hand as well. Okay, so looking at semester 2, we do have some changes with our in-person expectations. So again, we're really trying to make sure that we are starting to merge and start moving more towards an asynchronous component. So we have our asynchronous students who are working, which is really being able to work at their own pace at home in a manner that's going to best benefit who they are and what's happening with their family lifestyle. However, with us being in class and in person, couple days a week, we're moving to a more consecutive approach. So we're asking our students to be able to follow a 5-day consecutive plan. So our teachers are going to be loading assignments one day at a time. So our students, when they have assignments loaded for Monday, they need to be working on their Monday assignments. They get lessons loaded for Tuesday, they need to work on their Tuesday assignments. So that is very different than what has been the approach up until this point. Basically what needs to happen is our students, if they are an A day, so they're coming into school on Monday, they'll get their Monday lessons while they're with their teacher. So one of the big things is making sure that computers are here. We are going to be working on the computers. The students are going to be engaged in live discussions. They're going to be engaged in what's happening in the classroom, but they are also going to have expectations that they will be logging into Google Classroom. The teacher will help walk them through it, have some troubleshooting aspects when it comes to the Google Classroom while they're sitting in front of them. The students who are B days on Monday, they're going to be working on their Monday assignment from home, because when they walk into classroom on Tuesday, they need to have, the teacher needs to be really ready to be able to move the students exactly where they are and move them forward. So having those assignments done prior to the students coming in, they've been front loaded. So those are the major changes when it's coming to the academic plan for our students. One of the big things too, a huge shout out to everybody who has done our study tables. We have had a lot of success bringing in students to be able to have study tables on Monday and Tuesday. So I know big questions are we still going to be able to do those study tables? We'll have students in classes on both of those days now. So that traditional Monday and Tuesday study tables is obviously not going to happen because we'll have students in our classes in person learning. But on Friday, we are trying to figure out the same thing with Dr. Gratz had said, trying to work out a schedule as to how we can get students coming in, e-learning students and our hybrid learning students, to be able to get some additional help through small groups and things along those lines with the study table. So again, it took a lot of different people to be able to make the study tables work. Busing, our supervisors, being able to have our students in those small groups to be able to best benefit them. So, and parents, thank you so much for allowing your students coming in some additional hours a week to be able to get that support. With that, we also have our teachers who are going to, so some of our select teachers are going to start synchronously Zooming with our students. So the teachers will let the students know if that classroom has been chosen to synchronously Zoom, which means on an in-person learning day, if your student is an A day and they're in school on Monday, on Tuesday, they would Zoom in with the rest of the class. So essentially, if they're at home learning, they'll Zoom in with the rest of the class. If they're in person, they're in person, while the other class will be Zooming in. This is only happening in a select few classes in GIS. So the teachers will be very transparent and will let students know. They've been talking with them already this week about what's going to happen next week. So they've been trying to get the students ready for this new learning that's going to happen in the next week. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ware. And I do want to piggyback on your expression of the study tables and of course participation and engagement of parents and students, and also a shout out to our transportation department and really their flexibility. Brenda Madden, and Lori Branker and Nick Cochran oversee a lot of that with Jessica Crumpack, but that changes every other day as to the fluent system that we have to have, and sometimes it takes some flexibility, and so we're thankful for that, really.
I agree. Okay, so I did address a lot of these. What are the remote day expectations? When students are at home, their expectations are that they're keeping up with those assignments on the day-to-day basis. So again, that it's a consecutive. I can't stress that enough, that it needs to be done in a consecutive manner. So again, moving from, it's still asynchronous, but it's, if we had to scale it, it's not all the way off to the side where the students had the opportunity of choosing where they want to go in their path throughout the entire week. This time it's very targeted, that they are doing a certain path and they're following their day while they're at home. the daily classroom Zooms won't happen unless their teacher is piloting the synchronous learning. So the teachers will tell them that you're going to Zoom and they'll be Zooming in with the class. Remote Fridays are really going to be used for small groups, individual Zooms with teachers, and hopefully being able to bring in small study tables again on those Fridays.
And some time for teachers to collaboratively work to maintain the what I would consider a vibrant Google Classroom platform across the K-12 spectrum there.
Correct. Okay, so looking at our e-learners. E-learners, the families are really encouraged to be able to help and create a daily routine that's best going to fit their schedule. So this is very asynchronous. The students are working towards time tasks. So they have to complete so much time in all of their subjects every single day. Those expectations, again, as Dr. Gratz said, will be sent out to the e-learners on Monday, January 25th. So the students will get exactly what it is that they're supposed to be able to have to get logged in. There's many different platforms and programs they're going to be going in if they're in grades 4 and 5. Grade 6, it's very different because they'll be looking in some Google Classroom applications, and they're also going to be logging into Edgenuity. So it's really very self-paced. Students have to have certain expectations, needs to be a lot of checking in and making sure there is a teacher who's overseeing Mr. Sandy. And then we also have Mrs. Drennan, who's really supportive in assisting our students. We have daily office hours where students can log in, ask questions, hop on with the teachers to be able to see if there's something that they need to do or to be able to get them back on track. Okay, so looking at what are these e-learning updates. So again, we do have a few changes, a few additions for 4th and 5th grade. We are adding Study Island assignments and we're adding Am I Right? And the students already started working a little bit in Am I Right towards the end of this 9 weeks, but really going to be assigning a few more Am I Rights, going to change a little bit on the time requirements for ELA because we are adding in some of those Study Island assignments. So really paying attention semester 2 parents and families, even if your student was on e-learning for the first semester, that there are going to be some additions and some adjustments made to be able to best suit what our students need. 6th grade, again, if you're in 6th grade, you're going into Edgenuity. Students are also going to get a slide presentation explaining how to walk through, how to be able to go into the new platform. Go ahead.
Were you offering some, did I miss it, some professional learning opportunities?
It's on the
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so to help transition for our students, so our new students who are moving from e-learning to hybrid, we are offering some sessions for our students and our families to be able to get a little bit more information. So we're going to be sending out information from GIS. We're also hosting a hybrid learning orientation for those students. Again, those students specifically who are moving from e-learning to hybrid. So on Wednesday, January 27th from 5 o'clock until 7 p.m., we're offering an evening session. So families, if you need to be able to come to an evening session, just to be able to get some information about what Google Classroom looks like. There's a lot of different platforms than what our e-learners have been working on, and so that they have an opportunity to really have as much information as possible. We're also offering that on Friday, January 29th from 10 until 12 o'clock. So again, students will come in, we can work with them, getting them into their Google Classrooms. They will have already had 2 days of in-person classes. So that way they have content loaded into their Google Classroom. Doing this prior to them coming into a Google Classroom, there's not really going to be anything for them to work with. So we want them to do this at the end of that week, that learning week, so that they can really see what it is that's happening in their Google Classroom. Same sort of thing happening if you're moving from hybrid to the e-learning. Mr. Sandy, our teacher who oversees our e-learning for 4th to 6th grade, is going to be walking the students through that process on Zoom. So students are going to be logging in, they'll receive an email from Mr. Sandy, they'll receive an invitation to be able to log into Zoom, set up a schedule with him, and have him help to be able to walk through that process as to what it looks like. So that way, if you have any questions, you're able to ask them right there. And again, he offers office hours 2 times every day, single day anyway, so you'll be able to hop into that time as well.
Okay, Mrs. Ware, I think that pretty much wraps up the intermediate school there and expectations. Mrs. Drennan, any questions that we would address at this time?
No, there was just one for study tables and she's already addressed that.
Okay, All right, so thank you, Mrs. Ware. So moving along, we're going to go with Mrs. Santangelo and the junior high.
Hi again, everybody. So we have really perfected our building procedures for arrival and dismissal over these last couple of weeks. Our building opens at 7:40 to students, and they may enter car riders through the front of the building, drivers and bus riders through the cafeteria, and walkers at our most convenient entrance. When students enter, you will see stations for temperatures being taken as well as sanitizing. Breakfast is available to all of our students as they enter, and they head right to their classes at that point. Our first period begins at 8 a.m. Some things that are a little specific to the junior high school, our students do travel in a one-way loop in our hallway. That's just based on the design of our building. We have eliminated large group breaks. However, students may use the restroom at any point in time individually during class. And finally, our school day does end at 12:30, but lunch is provided on the way out to students as they exit. This is just a basic school supplies list. Our most important item, of course, being that charged device, whether it be school issued or personal. And we do have backup devices in all of our classrooms should a student have trouble with their computer, forget it, or not want to bring their own personal device. As you know, masks are required, and the teachers are letting their students know if they need any additional materials. But the basics really are all we need at this time. The two largest changes, I would say, is carrying the clear water bottle and also not having lockers. So students are, of course, able to carry their backpacks. Okay, so I want to dig in a little bit. We have 3 educational options here at the junior high, and I'm going to go through each of them to try to clarify what each of these groups is doing. And our teachers are, of course, supporting each of those learning groups in different ways. So first and most importantly, our hybrid learner, and I like to call them our students who will be entering our school building, they will continue 5 days of continuous curriculum, all managed through Google Classroom. So that is where all of our curriculum will be held or contained. Some of that will be synchronous, live, and some will be asynchronous, meaning done at their own convenient time. At this point, if you have selected to be a hybrid learner, you are required to attend our in-person learning days, depending on the group that you are in. In addition to attending those in-person days, you will also be required to attend all of your live Zoom classes. So again, there will be a detailed schedule that will come home to each individual student that will outline this, and then I also have it later in the presentation as well. Those students who are in person will be live with the teacher, and then those students who are at home on a remote day will be Zooming in to hear the direct instruction portion of the teacher's lessons. And so, of course, we are going to work through this together. We had a great deal of success with our live Zoom classes over the last 5 weeks, and they will look a lot like that. The only difference in this case will be students who are remote will be live Zooming in. They will be participating in the direct instruction portion of the class, and then they will be able to log off and work through Google Classroom asynchronously. A reminder that our electives for Q3 will change, but will remain remote and asynchronous as they have for the past 2 quarters.
I'm sorry. Oh.
You're okay when you're, yep. This is our junior high school schedule. Actually, Mr. O'Hara, I think maybe we missed a slide there.
Yeah, it looked like it was similar. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that. They are similar. So our distance learners are our option 3 students, and they are going to, again, utilize Google Classroom in the same way. There will be both synchronous and asynchronous components. However, there is one key difference. These students have selected not to enter the school building at this time. So in the instance of this group, they will be live Zooming into class Monday through Thursday with a remote learning day on Friday. So that is the key difference between those two groups. So they will have the same courses. Those courses will be assigned through Google Classroom. Their Q3 electives will also change. The key difference here with this group is they will not be entering our school building for whatever reason that might be. Okay, sorry about that. Now you can go to our schedule.
You're fine.
Thank you. Okay, so this schedule applies to both our hybrid group as well as our distance learners that I just spoke about. And again, we have 6 periods of core academic courses and then 2 periods of electives. So while we're here in person together, those 6 periods will take place. And for those distance learners and our remote learners, they will be Zooming in. Periods 1 through 6, same time, same place, same order, to try to keep it as simple as we possibly can. And again, students will be expected to join their Zoom class at the start time of each of their periods, and their teachers will dismiss them when the direct instruction is concluded. And again, we will send all of this out. I will send all of this out to our families, so you all will have this over in the next couple of days. And then finally, our third group of students that I wanted to mention are our Edgenuity students, or our e-learners. And all of our e-learning will be facilitated for the second semester through Edgenuity, as it was in the first semester. There are Girard teachers assigned to each of our Edgenuity students to support their learning needs. All of this learning will remain asynchronous, meaning we are not going to give you a time and a place where you need to be. We do, however, offer some support in person. So I want to make sure that our e-learners are aware that even though they have selected this model, they are still able to enter our building for extra help and support. This learning platform is largely self-paced. Our students are asked to maintain a specific completion rate, and that's indicated right on their Edgenuity program. And of course, their attendance is solely based on the completion of their coursework. Okay, so just kind of a sort of a quick at a glance slide of what's staying the same and what's changing. So what's staying the same really are Edgenuity students, really their platform is remaining the same as it did in semester 1. Our hybrid learners, or option 1, and our distance learners in option 3 will be using Google Classroom 5 days a week with their week at a glance. We are going to continue to offer, as needed by request or suggestion, office hours for one-on-one small groups. Those will take place after dismissal on Monday through Thursday or anytime on Friday. What is really different? We are going to have obviously more in-person and traditional direct instruction because our students are coming in 2 days a week. In addition to that, another large change for us here at the junior high school is utilizing that synchronous Zoom, that live Zoom class. So when you are remote on your remote day, your expectation would be to Zoom in to hear the teacher and their direct instruction for that lesson on that day. That again is only periods 1 through 6. And our electives, again, will be remaining remote 7th and 8th period. We are going to offer extra help and interventions, again, outside of the time we have in-person learners in our building. So that's going to be from 12:30 to 2:30, Monday through Thursday, and all day on Friday. Those, if you would like to request intervention, usually we are reaching out to our students, but if you'd like to request, you would contact Mrs. Vale, our school counselor.
Okay, Mrs. Santangelo, thanks for the organization of your building there. We appreciate your leadership as our team player. And any questions at this time that came up, Mrs. Drennan, during Mrs. Santangelo's presentation?
There is just one.
Okay.
Will the junior high kids who have been doing only Google Classroom be required to come into the building or have to switch to Edgenuity?
Okay, it sounds as though that individual would be selecting our distance learning option, which would keep that student within the Google Classroom platform, but they would Zoom in to live class Monday through Thursday. If they were unable to Zoom in for whatever reason, then at that point, we would suggest a shift to Edgenuity. Hopefully I answered that question. If not, call me here in the office and I'll be sure to help.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along here then, we're going to Mr. Caputo, our Girard High School principal. Mr. Caputo?
Actually, before I start, for Mrs. Ware, will the GIS students have gym, art, music classes while in school? There was a question you got there in the.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's a great question. So for their second 9 weeks, the specialist teachers were pushing in and we're going into the classrooms to be able to see those students. And they were basically had a pod of students that they were really making sure that they were caring for in an effort to be able to really reduce exposure, keep the students contained within certain rooms. This semester, we are moving more towards having our students move freely, a little bit more freely into other spaces. So being able to, again, as a pod, moving from their homeroom class and moving into their specialist spaces. So we are working through a rotating schedule. So it will look different because the students are in the building 2 days a week as opposed to 5 days a week. So normally they would get to be able to see every specialist at least once in the week. And that's not obviously going to happen when there's 2 days that they're in the building. So they will have to rotate. And so they should see every specialist at least twice in the next couple weeks, in the next 3 weeks. So being able to rotate them around.
Okay, thank you. And again, a shout out to our staffs and our teaching staff and support staff and their flexibility over this year, and probably especially our specialists that have been asked to change gears a little bit more than everybody else. It's recognized and appreciated also. So Mr. Caputo, it's all yours. Okay.
And before I start with the presentation, I did have one question about prom. Is prom still being planned? The short answer is yes. The more appropriate, kind of longer answer is that I have had a chance to meet with the senior class officers and seniors on student council. And the conversation that I had with them was that we're going to try to do every single event that is typical of a high school academic year that we're able to. That will include prom and a traditional looking commencement and senior banquets and things of that nature. Obviously right now it's hard to predict what that'll look like 2 months from now. So it may not look like a traditional prom has looked in the past, or what a traditional banquet or that, what those sorts of things have seen in the past. But I can say that that we're certainly committed to doing everything that we can, for the senior class. So that's really all we can go with right now. I actually did talk to Mrs. Byrne, who was our junior class advisor, today about some of these things. So we will certainly go forward planning to have something. And again, what it will look like, time will tell as we get into April and May. So hopefully that answered your question. And again, I would like to see, our senior class get to do all of those things that traditional senior classes get to do. All right. So with that being said, our arrival and dismissal procedures are very similar to what Mrs. Santangelo talked about in the junior high. The building opens at 7:40. Our car riders, we have very few, but those of you who are car riders enter through the front of the building. Drivers and bus riders enter through the cafeteria. Walkers use the most convenient entrance. As they come in, they can grab a breakfast. They sanitize, take temperatures, and rather than keeping them in a holding area, in the past, kids have congregated outside, weather permitting. or they've congregated in the cafeteria. We are sending kids directly to class to make sure that we're appropriately socially distancing right away. That has gone very well, in our first few days in school so far. First period begins right at 8 o'clock. Our school day ends at 12:30. Lunch is available to students as they exit. We've been very quick to try to change classes. Again, our schedule, because of a high school schedule, some of these things become a little more challenging. Because our electives and things like that for high school credit, they still need to get the respect of a full period. So we can't do some of the more creative things that maybe the intermediate school or the junior high does with our elective classes. So we do have to stay on that 8-period scheduled day. But we've been, I think the teachers and the kids have done a great job of making those class changes as efficient as possible. School supplies, just very quickly, at the high school level, we're fairly basic. It's essential that we have a charged device every day, whether kids are bringing their personal device or if they're bringing the one that we issue through the school. And then earbuds, even though we are face-to-face, there are still some things that we want to do through Zoom. One of the things that actually a junior high teacher mentioned was that because of some of the barriers, depending on how tall a kid is, there may be some obstructed view trying to see the board. So it's actually easier for the teacher to Zoom or to share their presentation so that the kid can see the full thing on the screen. So it's important that they bring a charged device and earbuds, obviously a mask, any additional classroom materials the teacher requests, and then the water bottle and our backpack. But again, we're fairly basic, the same as what the junior high and intermediate schools have said. Before I talk about the specifics of each learning model, just very simply, what is the same? And again, this looks very similar to what you saw from Mrs. Santangelo in the junior high. Edgenuity is largely the same as the first semester. Our hybrid learners, which was the option 1, and our distance learners, who are the Google Classroom remote learners through option 2, are still facilitated through Google Classroom. Again, as Mr. O'Hara mentioned, one of the things that we've learned talking to countless other school districts is that, the thing that they've had a problem with is the starting and stopping through quarantines and through shutdowns and that sort of thing. To make sure that we don't have those same problems, we're making sure that we keep our Google Classroom, 5 days with our week at a glance, and some of the best practices that we've already used this year. Again, something that both students, teachers, and parents have commented on that have worked are our small group Zoom meetings and office hours and one-on-one Zoom meetings for our students that we will continue in the afternoon on those early release days and then on Friday. What looks different right now, as Mrs. Santangelo mentioned, we are very similar from the standpoint, more days in school means more in-person and traditional direct instruction. And I think that's been very well received by our students and staff alike. And we do have some, but not all of our teachers using the synchronous Zoom lessons. So whereas in a lot of ways, we're a lot like the junior high, we're kind of like the intermediate school in this aspect. We will not have every teacher doing the synchronous Zoom piece with group A in person and group B Zooming in at home, but we will have a lot of teachers doing that. Why don't we have everybody doing that? Again, because of the variety of different classes you see at high school, some of the classes are easily facilitated in that manner and some of them aren't. Just to give you an example, I know that most of our math classes have tried the synchronous Zoom piece and it's gone very well. A class, for example, some of our career classes that use the Naviance platform or the Ohio Means Jobs platform and that sort of thing, it doesn't make sense for them to Zoom in. They can do work, on that other platform separately and then meet with the teacher, on the alternate days. So again, depending on the comfortability of the teacher, the format of the class, some of us will be doing those synchronous Zoom meetings and some of us will not. All right. But again, like Mrs. Ware mentioned in the intermediate school, our instruction is going to merge asynchronous and synchronous teaching components, largely at the teacher's discretion for the reasons that I just mentioned. for the teachers who choose synchronous. And again, by the end of the week, teachers will start to invite the kids to the Google Classrooms for the second semester. Again, we're in a, before I continue, we are in a little bit of a different spot in the high school because unlike the other buildings, we are now changing semesters. So kids will have completely different classes in the second semester than they did in the first semester. So, that brings a couple of different dynamics as we move forward. That being said, the teachers who are synchronous Zooming will let kids know, by the end of the week and very early into next week. The teachers that are teaching students in class and Zoom simultaneously will rely on synchronous time for direct instruction. Again, we've had a few teachers doing that so far this week. And, to be honest with you, other than a few minor kinks, I think it's gone very, very well with the teachers who have tried to do that. And so we're going to continue. I think with a little bit of professional learning, most of our teachers are comfortable doing that. Okay. And I'll get to the expectations of the kids here in just a second. The asynchronous piece for the people who aren't live Zooming are remote learners in the class. They'll be teaching the students in class and then posting the direct instruction videos on Google Classroom. Their Google Classrooms will kind of look very similar to what they have looked like so far this year. Those teachers will rely on their office hours in the afternoons and Friday to Zoom with the remote learners to provide direct instruction. So really, if you think about it, our asynchronous learners will still get at least 3 days of direct instruction in this model because they'll have the days that they're in school and the Friday Zoom meeting, and our synchronous kids will get those 4 days, with the 2 days that they're in school and the 2 days and the 2 days that they simultaneously Zoom in. So now one thing that also will change is our Zoom schedule because it will follow our normal period day. So if your student is remote on a given day and they are Zooming into their class live, they will follow our live Zoom schedule, which you see here. And again, like Mrs. Santangelo said, she's providing information. We are doing the same thing. There will be a brief video that I share with all high school students, and I will text message the link to all parents like I normally do, with the links to the presentation and a link to a brief video explaining it here, within the week. All right, so one of the last things I wanted to talk about are the expectations for each group. All right, so for the hybrid learners, those are the people who chose option 1. As we mentioned before, all learning is facilitated through Google Classroom, okay, through that 5-day. There are some synchronous and some asynchronous components. This is something that's very important. The students who say they are coming into the building are required to be there all days that they're scheduled to be there in person. In addition, they're required to attend all Zoom meetings scheduled by the teacher. All right, so that being said, if my first period teacher is one of those synchronous live Zoom teachers, my last name's Caputo, so I would be in the A group. I am in person on Monday and Wednesday. We are taking attendance and I'm expected to be there. And on Tuesday and Thursday at 8 o'clock, I'm expected to Zoom into that class for my live Zoom. All right. That's how we're going to get our, get the appropriate minutes for instruction. Okay. So again, students are required to attend all scheduled in-person days and all Zoom meetings as scheduled by the teacher, including the synchronous Zoom classes during school hours and on remote days. Our attendance is taken daily and it's based on the in-person attendance, the Zoom meeting attendance, and for those asynchronous learners, the completion of the work. Distance learner. So again, these are the kids in Google Classroom who decided to stay full remote. This was option 3 on the survey. Again, all learning is facilitated through Google Classroom. Some of it is synchronous, some of it is asynchronous. Students are expected to keep pace with the daily work of the class. If for whatever reason you're unable to commit to keeping pace with the daily work of the class, we've already started to reach out to a lot of these option 3 people so they understand the difference in the remote option in the first semester to the remote option now. As an option 3 person, if you can't commit to keeping pace with the class, Edgenuity is the better option. If you cannot commit to being on the synchronous Zoom schedule, it is important that you then you choose the Edgenuity option. Okay, because there will be the expectation that anybody in Google Classroom participate in those Zoom meetings during the school day and keep pace with the work in the class, whether they are in front of us or not. Okay. As far as the Edgenuity expectations, this is very similar to what Mrs. Ware and Mrs. Santangelo have already mentioned. All learning is facilitated through Edgenuity. The Girard City Schools teachers are available to provide support. Everything is asynchronous. Although learning is largely self-paced, you should be expected to maintain a completion rate for the class. A lot of that will be delineated to you by Mr. Foster, who is in charge of our Edgenuity program at the high school. And attendance is based on completion of work. So it's very important that we stay on schedule in terms of that. And then the very last piece, and this is for junior high and high school. Again, as Mr. O'Hara mentioned, this will be provided, the presentation will be provided on our website. So you have some active links here once the PDF is shared. These are for Mr. Foster's Remind class. So those Edgenuity students and parents can get reminders for the Remind through the Remind app. The e-learner form is how you sign up for his Remind class. Again, a lot of that is, I take that back. The Remind class is that. He will also have weekly progress reports that are emailed to you. In order to sign up for that, you have to sign that e-learner form, that second link there. And again, any other advanced questions for Mr. Foster can be answered via his email there.
Okay, Mr. Caputo, thank you for the summary there of the leadership of your building, and along with Mr. Cardero, your leadership is appreciated. And I'm thankful for our entire administrative team here, and I feel blessed to be part of this team during these very difficult times. And I just want to make sure that I appreciate the long meetings that we have, principals, sometimes on a daily basis, but being able to be honest with each other and forthcoming helps us to grow as a school district. So thank you. Okay, moving along here with some upcoming. Yes?
We have some questions.
Okay.
Can you go back one to that Edgenuity slide?
Sure, here.
Yeah, I just want to add, Mr. Caputo, that e-learners form is also how they sign up for their classes for the next semester. How they pick their Edgenuity electives.
Right here?
Yeah, the e-learners form, and it's on the website also under students and e-learners.
Oh, and actually, and that has been Mrs. Warga and or Mrs. Cochran have been emailing that to students, at least the high school students I can speak of, for those elective classes. So again, if you have signed up for option 2 for the Edgenuity piece, there's a really good chance that your student has already been emailed by the guidance counselors to pick that. So yeah, again, so make sure that gets filled out right away.
And there's also a question for you, Mr. Caputo.
Yes.
Will GHS have band practice during the school day?
Again, the short answer is yes. The Mr. Colella is still kind of in the process of how to do that safely. He's really been up on, the science of, how do we, play socially distanced band with, droplets and, and things like that. So it's we're still working out the kinks, but we're going to figure out a way to do that. Yes.
Okay, you have a few more.
Yes.
Will there be study groups? And if so, will they only be for students that are struggling, or can any student sign up for them?
Okay, the answer here, we've already been doing the stuff for for some of the students that have been struggling. We will continue to do that on Fridays and in the afternoons after the early release. However, and I think what this parent is referring to is for sophomores, we have state testing coming up in the spring. And the answer is we will have study tables for them also. We do have We do have teachers who teach the core subjects working on, Google Classrooms and things like that for that purpose. But we will have, whether it's in the evenings, on those Fridays, or even on weekends, we are in the process of planning study groups for the tested subjects.
Okay, you have a couple more.
Yes.
Are in-person school days at the high
Yep,
school?
I can see.
going-
Oh, I can see them. Yeah.
Oh, you can see them. Okay, there you
We're
go.
going to be used as study halls to work on Google Classroom assignments or teaching new material. The answer is that they will be used to teach new material. Where I think some of the disconnect may be coming from with that, I would ask parents to kind of understand and students to understand the high school is in a bit of a unique situation because although we are the first couple of days in in-person learning, we're also in the last 2 days, we're also in the last couple days of a semester. If we were in person, fully in person, a lot of the days at the end of the semester are used for kids to work on makeup work, prepare for final exams, and that sort of thing. So a lot of those things have been going on in our classes right now. So I would say that it would be inaccurate to think that what has kind of gone on the last couple of days in class would be indicative of what instruction is going to look like come Monday. Because again, the beginning of a semester, the heart of a semester looks a lot different than the end of a semester does. So I think it's important to kind of keep that in perspective. Okay. So yes, so to answer that question, obviously that we will, we'll continue to teach in our in-person format. Will the core classes in the high school be synchronous? Again, as much as possible. I think a lot of our teachers are feeling like it's comfortable to do that. Again, not depending on the format of the class, not every single core class may be that way, but most of our core classes will be synchronous. And then any elective that is comfortable doing that or is formatted to do that will be doing it. Okay, prom question follow-up. Will it just be for seniors? Will it be a junior-senior prom? As it stands right now, I would imagine that it's we will plan for it to be a junior-senior prom. Okay, that's kind of where we're at there. Seeing how social distancing is how the guidelines are changing right now, I would hope that we can have it be for juniors and seniors. So that would kind of be where I stand with that right now. Okay, will the school be hosting the ACTs for the junior class? The answer is yes. Again, for those of you who know, there is a one-time hosting for all juniors that is paid for by the state to take the ACT. We administer that as a school, and we still have the plans to do that. I believe if I could check my calendar here very quickly. For some reason, February 23rd is sticking out in my mind. Okay, I believe it is, I'm 99% sure it's the week of February 22nd. So it's either on Tuesday the 23rd or Wednesday the 24th. I am pretty sure it's Tuesday the 23rd, but I will need to clarify that before I committed to that. Okay. And again, the free ACT, the last question I have here is if the ACT will be given to the junior class, will seniors be allowed to take it also? For that free administration, that's a one-time thing for juniors, and our current seniors took it last year when they were juniors. Okay, so the answer to that is no.
Okay, Mr. Caputo.
Yeah, I think that's all I have right now.
Mr. Caputo, there's one more question for Mr. O'Hara. Will you read that one to him?
Oh, yes.
Are there plans?
Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second. I gotta scroll up. Oh, are there plans to go back to full day schedules, or will you stay at half day schedules due to Google Classroom?
would we mean early release? Is that correct? I'm thinking that's what I'm understanding there.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, and I think we would maintain our early release schedule at least through the end of the third 9 weeks. Again, expressing that many of our teachers have 3 platforms to sustain. And, you know, when we get to the point that we can get the food service back safely and additional shields created for those cafeterias, et cetera. So that would be maintained through the end of the third 9 weeks. You know, that being said, that the week of late in the week of February 1st, again, after meeting with our district leadership team and looking at the progress of the vaccination and the status of our staff and students, and hopefully the spread being minimized, you know, our next move would be to increase the number of in-person learning days for our students. And you know, for that to happen, we would combine groups A and B, and probably most likely look at a 4-day schedule there for them, although on an early release with a remote day still in place. But this is where we're at as of today, and that is the landscape for tomorrow. So there's some upcoming dates here that we want you to be aware of in terms of the end of the quarter, parent-teacher conferences and no schooling on the 12th. And I think that would be the 15th, Monday the 15th, correct? For that February? There might be a typo on that. So
That's correct.
okay. Again, I want to thank all of those who participated this evening from our panel and our families and students. It's been a good hour and a half. Each of our building principals, again, will have avenues to share out their disaggregated information here, particular to their buildings. And then, you know, knowing that we are Girard family taking care of each other, I need to express an apology, you know, for the times that from my leadership seat that we haven't maintained the taking care of each other as a family without having a roadmap during this pandemic or a crystal ball. And as I shared before, you know, families get messy, and sometimes we concentrate on certain students or certain children in our family, and others are overlooked. And that was not intentional by any means. I appreciate the emails, the dialogue, and of course the conversations that we have during our district leadership team. But I apologize for the times that we were not taking care of each other. But we are reflecting to do better in those areas. So that being said, until next time, we are Girard.